Children don't remember how many hours you spent at work. They remember how many hours you spent with them. They don't remember what your bank account balance was. They remember what your laughter sounded like. They don't need a perfect father. They need a father who's present. And if you can still be there, choose that. Because later might never come. He used to run to me for hugs. Now, he just walks past. Not because he's angry, but because I taught him to live without me. And one day I realized I'm no longer dad. One click and you're with us, together until we hit our first 1,000. I always thought I was doing everything right. Work, bills paid, food in the fridge, the best toys I could afford. I was proud of this. I thought this was my role, but I almost never saw him play with those toys because I came home when he was already asleep and left when he was still sleeping. I remember one evening. He was about 6 years old. I went into his room and he was already lying in bed, eyes closed. I kissed his forehead and he whispered, "Dad, will we play tomorrow?" I said, "Of course, buddy. Tomorrow for sure." The next day I came home late again. He was already asleep, and I thought, well, tomorrow. Only later did I realize that we always had tomorrow, and never today. Once I came home early, opened the door to his room, and there he was, sitting on the floor, building with blocks. I smiled. "Hey there, champ. What are you building?" He looked up, and there was a momentary pause in his eyes, as if he didn't expect to see me. And then he said, "Nothing. Just messing around." I sat down next to him and started helping. He smiled a couple of times, but kept glancing at the clock. And that's when I understood. He had already gotten used to me not being part of his play, that I was a guest who sometimes dropped by his life. I was a good father. Almost. You know what's scary? A child doesn't stay hurt forever. He just learns to live without you. I didn't notice it right away, not in one moment. It came quietly, with small stings. The first time, when I suggested we go to the park. Before, he would jump with joy, grab my hand. This time, he shrugged. "Maybe later. I'm busy." He was busy sitting at the computer, drawing something in a program. I stood in the doorway, waiting for him to look at me like he used to. But he didn't even turn around. The second time, when I noticed that his photos on my phone had changed. Before, they were of the two of us, him and me with goofy smiles, with ice cream, wearing Santa hats. Now, him with friends, him at school, him with mom. I was barely in any of them. One day I came home a little earlier than usual. He was sitting at the table doing homework. I put my hand on his shoulder and he flinched, as if he didn't expect my touch, as if a father's touch was a rarity. "It's me," I said quietly. "I know," he replied and went back to his notebook. I started trying to catch his eye, and I saw something in it that hadn't been there before. It wasn't hurt, and it wasn't anger. It was distance. He looked at me the way you look at a neighbor you greet out of habit, but don't really know anything about. I remember the day he stopped telling me stories. Before, he could talk for hours about dinosaurs, about space, about what he saw in cartoons, and I listened with half an ear. I thought I'd still have time to really listen to all of this. That day I asked, "How was school?" He shrugged, "Fine," and went to his room. The door closed behind him, and I realized I no longer knew what his life was about. Once he used to run to me to show me a drawing, now to mom. Once he used to wait for me to come to his soccer game. Now, he doesn't invite me. I miss too much, and you can't get that back. Yesterday, I found his old toy car in the drawer, the very one I gave him when he was little. I remember how he used to drive it around on the floor, laughing, pretending he was driving to distant cities. That evening, he said, "Dad, want to play together?" And I answered, "Not now. I need to finish work." I thought he would remember that I worked for him. But he remembers that I didn't play. Now he's gotten taller. His voice is changing. Sometimes I hear his laughter from his room. Laughter that no longer invites me to share in the joy. I understand. He grew up without me, next to me, but without me. And the scariest part, I taught him myself that I'm not really there. I thought the best gift I could give my son was security. It turned out the best gift was me, and I didn't give it. I decided something needed to change, not just coming home earlier, but truly being present, listening, playing, living together. I told myself, this time, no later. On Friday, I took time off work, stopped by for pizza, his favorite, with double cheese. I thought I'd come in and he'd be happy that we'd spend the evening together. I opened the door. His sneakers were in the hallway. I smiled. He's home. Son, I'm here. Silence. I found him in his room. He was sitting at the computer wearing headphones. I knocked on the door. He turned around and took off his headphones. Hi, I said. I thought, maybe we could watch a movie tonight or play something? He shrugged. I don't know. I'm busy. Busy. A word I had said to him hundreds of times. Now it was his shield. From me. Well, maybe later? We'll see. I put the pizza on the table. I got your favorite. Thanks. I'll eat it later. Later. That later cut me like a knife. Because I realized I'm not a priority. I taught him myself that we always have later. I sat in the living room and waited. 10 minutes, 15, 30. As a child, he would have run out in a minute. Now he wasn't in a hurry. When he finally came out, I put on a movie we used to watch together when he was little. Remember this one? I asked. He looked at the screen and nodded. Yeah, we watched it, I think. As if it was from someone else's life. I tried to start a conversation. Asked about school, about friends. He answered briefly. His gaze kept returning to his phone. I understood. I'm knocking on a door that's been closed for a long time, and I don't have the key. I lost it. After the movie, he went to his room. Thanks for the pizza, Dad. I smiled. Anytime, son. But inside, I felt empty. Because behind that thanks, I heard, you're nice, but you're not part of my world. I sat in the darkness and thought, when he was little, I could enter his life without knocking. Now, only if he opens the door, and he doesn't open it. I wanted to be a good father, and I thought I still had time. But time isn't something you can get back. It goes away, along with doors that close forever. There's one day I think about more than any other. He was very little, about 5 years old. Sunshine, summer, warm breeze. We went to the park. We bought ice cream. He got it on his nose. Laughed so loud that people turned around and smiled. We rode the carousel, then went on the paddle boats. I held his little hand, and it seemed like such a fragile miracle that I was afraid to let go even for a second. He chattered non-stop about what he saw in a cartoon, about how sea dinosaurs lived in the pond, about how when he grows up, he'll still go for walks with me. I listened and nodded and thought, I should do this more often. Just be there. Just walk together. We came home in the evening. He fell asleep in my arms, and I looked at him and felt happiness, real happiness, no conditions. But here's what's scary. That day was the only one I remember so clearly. Not because it was unique, but because there were too few like it. Years have passed since then. We've both changed. I got tired more often. He started calling less often. Now his palm doesn't fit in mine. His voice got deeper, and it has fewer and fewer words for me. Sometimes I think, if he also kept one day with his father in his memory, would it be the same day? Or would he choose some other one? Or maybe none at all. I often look at an old photo from that day. He's on the boat in a life jacket, looking at me and smiling like I'm his whole world. I look at that picture and understand. Back then, I really was his world. And now, I'm just an address where he can come back for holidays. I'm still a good father. Just now, only for memories. For the present, I've become a stranger. I didn't understand this right away. Not in 1 second. Not after some conversation. Just one evening, sitting in the living room, I heard his laughter from his room. Loud. Real. And I realized he knows how to laugh without me. I was no longer the center of his world, but I could at least be in his orbit, if I wanted to, if I dared, if I stopped waiting for the right moment. The next day, I knocked on his door. "Hi, how's it going?" He shrugged. "Fine. Want some pizza?" "Sure. Want to eat together?" He hesitated for a second. "Okay." We sat in the kitchen. We ate. We didn't talk much. But that not much was more important than all my laters from recent years. I wasn't trying to bring back that 5-year-old boy. He's gone, and that's okay. But in front of me was a teenager who could still know that he has a father, not just in memories, but here. Now that evening, when he went to his room, I didn't feel emptiness. I felt that today I was present. Not at work, not in plans, not in excuses, but nearby. I was a good father, almost. Now I just want to be a father, without the almost.